Apologize for the oddness here. Looks like my webcam didn't get picked up automatically. And I don't know if it's zooming correctly, but it is what it is, so we'll move on from here. Hello, and thanks for joining the session. Today we're going to continue working with the graphics creation stuff we've been doing as a part of that podcast. As a quick overview, I'm going to show, let's see, actually I need to go into this app here, or this episode, and we have image. Where was that? Oh, actually, no, it's uploads. There we go. So this was the work that we did on the last session. We took for a specific episode, we resized the background image so that it fit into a square, and then started looking at what we could do to overlay additional graphics on top of it. But I think what I'd like to do is maybe change this a little bit, because I think we can probably be a little more interesting here. So let's see here. Where's the command? We're just testing it locally. So this was a little test script that we have. This was setting some defaults, the default width and height of the image that we're creating, just hard coding the path to the background image. This is where we get the lone wolf from. One of the things that we did was wrote this complicated logic to resize everything. I'm going to try and completely remove this because, as it turns out, I think we can probably do something a lot easier. So there is actually a thumbnail method, and even though thumbnail sounds like it's very specific, I think it's essentially a resize and crop or not. So I'm going to pull up the Imagine docs again. Where is this? Resize images. I need to figure out where that actually lived. No. The docs on here have not been very easy to find things on, which is a little unfortunate. Wow. Okay, so manipulator interface. All right, thumbnail. Generates a thumbnail from a current image and returns a new image without modifying the current image unless no clone is passed. All right, so all right, so if I have filter undefined, episode image, thumbnail, I should be able to do probably the same thing that we did here. So size. And let's see. It's going to return a clone, so I'm just going to reassign it. Let's just see if this works, because if this works, then we've just saved a bunch of code. Let's see. All right, so it actually saved. Let's see what it did. Okay, so it didn't do what I thought it would. So it's a good thing we tried it out. So let's see what else we can do here. Let's see the settings. See, because it's not really a delayed process. Apply. All right. Doesn't resize, size stays the same. Thumbnail size mode. So I think there was something with the mode. Yeah, so it doesn't describe this very well. Let's try this and just see what this does. So I think there were two different thumbnail modes. Size, and then, yeah. Let's see if this behavior is at least a little closer to what we're looking for. No. Let's make sure it's actually writing to where I think it does. Yeah, so it's supposed to be saving. All right. So image thumbnail size. Let's go here. Thumbnail inset or outbound? All right, so that's not actually working as advertised. The console output shows this. It doesn't seem to be doing anything at all. I'm going to remove that file just to make sure it's not some other thing going on here. Yeah, okay. I'm not working. So, to be written as original image open, thumbnail original image size. So I'm actually doing it the right way. Better, hope you understand library better, your error. Yeah, see, the docs on here are pretty sketchy. Resize image keeping aspect ratio. This is essentially the code that we wrote. Place kitten, that's pretty awesome. All right. Imagine thumbnail. So prepare an image thumbnail based on target dimensions. Thumbnail operation returns an image interface. The source is not modified. If thumbnail mode is the original image side is scaled down, maybe it's only scaling down. I thought that it would switch it regardless, but maybe that's not the case. So let me try. Let's make this 512 by 512. And see if that's going to work. No. Oh, well, actually it might have. It might have, but it's not. We tried the other size. Thumbnail outbound. There we go. All right, and I'm going to make that podcast image a little smaller. Let's do 64. Oh. Okay, that's actually not too bad. So it looks like thumbnail works, and I'd actually like to use that if I can. Unfortunately, it looks like it only scales down. Imagine thumbnail scale up. Allow upscale. Else. Where's that being passed? This was closed. Fix to allow. where do the options come from? All right, load. Really? Minimum array. Let's see, start reviewing. I guess that just got closed because nobody ever did anything with it. Can't resize if desired image is less than. All right, so some of this looks to be, oh, this is actually for their filter too, isn't it? I'm gonna double check that interface again to see scale. Well, I'm going to leave it like this for now. And just play with it as this and then try to work out that other problem later. I want to change a little bit where this image is placed. So I don't want it to be at 50-50. Let's do 16-16. Cool. And eventually I think I want to do the black and white version of the logo, but I'm not going to worry about that just yet. Let's see, unless I can easily do that. So assets image, that podcast cover photo. I want to see which logos we have. The podcast cover. Don't know. I don't know if I can do SVGs. Let's try and see what happens. Let's see, it was assets. That podcast logo. Okay, cool. That's not exactly what I'm hoping for because I want it to actually be right, but I'll allow this for now. Just kind of leave it like it is. Okay, cool. So, I wonder, imagine SVG transparent. Set background color. Apply mask, image mask. Do with black on transparent. All right, I'm not going to worry about that at all. All right, so the other things that I wanted to do on this particular image is I wanted to see if I can play around with creating a fill that does a gradient from, I don't know, maybe like 20% black to 0% black. And similar, I want to do a similar thing on the bottom as well. So I'm going to try looking at the Imagine drawing stuff. And I'm going to switch this just because it's going to annoy me otherwise. So we cleaned up all of this code. I'm going to leave it for reference. Let's see where we at. So box. So we already have a box. Can we do fill? So here's fill. And there is gradient. So let's look at Imagine gradient. See if there's an example of this. No. All right, let's see if we can get back to their docs. Colors. No. Image watermarking. It's not just a coordinate. We actually want to draw. Oh, maybe it's just drawings. All right, so create a box using a palette with a certain color. All right, so this is where we're going to be working with the text stuff as well. I guess we'll use the Rgb palette. Oh, we already have that. We're using it? Yeah, okay, we're using it for the color. So we pasted these things on top of the image. So we want to probably do it here. So image. Create. We'll do new box. And what's our width? Our width now is 512. So we'll do 512 by, say, 128. And then we will fill it with black. Is it color? Yeah. Color. I don't think that alone is going to do anything. I think we have to paste it. Yeah. Undefined method, image create. Okay, so we need to do Imagine create. We'll do top gradient. Okay. And then we can do image paste, top gradient, and new image point. And we're going to do 0 by 0 because this is going to be the top one. So this one will be easier to place. I can't actually tell. I think it's actually doing it right, but run it. Yeah, okay, cool. So it's actually doing it. And then we want to do the same thing for the bottom. But before we do that, I want to see if we can figure out how to do the gradient part. So let's do Imagine gradient. Example. No. All right, so let's go back here. Drawing shapes. Create a box, palette color. I wonder, let's see what that actually takes here. So we've got create, color returns a color interface. Create, Can I do a fill, new gradient? I don't know what the difference between gradient and, or vertical and, I guess vertical and horizontal makes sense. Length, extends linear. Okay. What's an overall gradient length? Okay. All right, well, let's just start with length of 100. Let's see what happens. Oh, too few arguments to function linear. Okay, so now we need to pass it multiple colors. I'm wondering if we need to get RGBA. GB, or if there's a transparency. Colors. There we go. Color class. Okay. All right. That's cool. So we can just specify those. Okay, so on the fill, what we're going to do is specify to and from. So we'll have palette, color, and we'll do 000 from 20%. And then we're going to do the same thing as 0%. I think that will work. Except I did a typo somewhere. Color, extra parenthesis needed. All right. I wonder if that's backwards. Let's do 0 and 20. Also, I think this length might be part of the problem. I think that length needs to be longer. Let's do 128 so it matches the height. See if that's doing anything different for us. Oh, actually, I wonder if there's anything wrong with this being here. I wonder if I can not specify color there. Yeah. All right. Well, it's still not. I'm not able to see what it's actually doing. So let me switch this to 100, and let's do red so we can better see what's going on. Okay, so it is upside down now. So I can switch these around. So this should be 100 and this should be 0. Interesting. Doesn't seem to have changed anything. I would have thought that that would have changed it. Let's do 50. All right, so 0 and 50. It should be changing things. Let's see if it's not. Why is it not? Let's do. I wonder if it's sorting those for some reason, somehow. Or if that, so. So do 10. That value might not be at all. Ow. I still don't really know what that means, but at least it's doing something different. I wonder if I only need one of these. No, I need at least 2. Or this needs 2. End is missing. Vertical. So linear gradient with the overall gradient length and the start and end shades. Right. sense of the position relative to the beginning of the gradient. All right, so yellow's on top. If I switch these around, in theory, the image should look different. So yellow on top, red down below. Now it's green. So yellow is always on the top. This is actually the length of the gradient. It's going from alpha 0, let's do alpha 100. I'm sure this probably makes sense somehow, somewhere, but it does not to me at all. Seems very broken. How are these different? Constructs a linear gradient with the well gradient, start and end shades. Vertical, horizontal. See if horizontal actually behaves differently. Maybe there's something weird with my assumptions here. Still don't understand this. So that is going from black to green. Well, it's going from nothing to green at 100%. It's going from alpha, let's see if I go to 0 here. Maybe these colors are backwards. Oh. Okay, so it goes to green 100%. From black at 0. So if I wanted to go from green at 0 to black at 100. Well, yeah. 100. Nope. This first bit's still doing it wrong. Let's see. Broken color gradient calculations. colors. This is recent. This is merged on August 28th. What do we have for tags? Uh, 1.0. Let's see where we at. 1.1.0. All right. Let's see if we can get a newer version of Imagine. Remove. We don't need this package anymore because we're not really doing anything with it. All right, so that removed Imagine 0.7.1. So that was a pretty old version of Imagine. That might explain some things here. I'm going to see if just getting Imagine works at whatever its most recent stable version is. If that works, great. If not, then I'll try the dev version. All right, now let's try running this again. Okay. Ha. Okay, so this actually looks more like what it looks like it's doing more like what I would have expected. So it's going from green 0 to black 100%. Let's go from black 0 to black 20%. So that's almost too subtle. It's black 50. Okay, cool. I like that. All right, so now let's go back to vertical. We'll do length 128. But then we want to reverse it. So go start at 50 and go to 0. Okay, cool. All right, so I might actually try to switch it out to using a different background image. Just because this is kind of a difficult image to work with, but that's sort of why we need to do this anyway. Let's go top to bottom. And then X is still 0, but Y is going to be, let's see, 768. No. 512. 640. Should have been able to come up with that earlier on my own, but you know. All right, so we're doing the same thing. I'm guessing this has to be reversed. And this should give us a nice little reverse gradient back out of the image. And it didn't. All right, so what happened? Oh, that's why. That's way too low. 28, 56. Okay, so I was closer to begin with. All right. There we go. Cool. So the idea is to give some little bit of stuff here to give us some more contrast. Let's go to 75%. All right. And actually, we can go ahead and try this with a different image. So right now we're using Lone Wolf. Let's use something else. Let's see what options we have. So CSS. Onions. Let's do Blood Moon. I don't really remember what that one looked like. G. Okay, well that one actually would have been dark anyway. Let's do Sparrow. So the only thing I'm not really doing here is doing some optimization, which we'll probably want to do at some point to make sure that the images aren't quite so large. If we look at this, let's see, since it's being rendered currently as a PNG, where was it? Network. The file sizes aren't very small, so it's 200K for this image. If I look at, let's see, where was that? Sparrow. Well, I guess it was 174K, so it's not too much larger, I guess. But I do want to make sure that I do take care of this. The other thing is, this is now probably a fraction of the size of the original image. Because right now I think it's 512 by 512. If we look at the original, I think it was probably, yeah, it was almost 4,000 pixels wide. So we're losing a lot of size and actually a larger image because of it. So we need to keep an eye on that at least a little bit. Okay, so I think this stuff's pretty good for now. What I'd like to do is try to do some stuff with the fonts now. And this is going to require more checking of things. So the way that this should work, so I'm going to see if I can find a really long title from our set, see which we have that wrap plenty. This one might be a good candidate. This one, I know they were short for a little while, but some of them do get quite lengthy. Okay, so I guess that GDPR is probably the longest title. So what I want to do is try to place this title at the bottom, and I'm going to try and pick an arbitrary font, arbitrary size for now, that sort of looks about right, just so that I can get the algorithm for fitting the text in the box right. I'm probably going to have to take this offline and actually work on kind of like optimizing this so that it's actually the right sizes that I want for everything. But for now, we're just going to see what we can get working. So let's go to layers, drawings. I think drawing is where they had the text stuff. Let's see if there's anything on the home page here. Text. Notice from the draw interface, there is also a font class. This class is a path. All right, so I guess let's just try it. You can ask the text value to get the box for a given string. So what we're going to do is try and figure out we're going to take different chunks of the title, see how big the box is, and then we'll start wrapping once the box gets larger than the area that we have available. So let's see. So we have the draw interface. And that's on image, not imagine. So let's see here. If you have a font instance, you can use one of its 3 methods to inspect. Okay, so we actually can do this with the font class. So let's do font. And it looks like I have to pass it something. Why do I all right, so imagine, is that right? File equals foo for now. Size, we'll do 8 point. And color. Palette color. We'll do black. So it doesn't like this. Expected image magic, not. Imagine font. Oh. Okay, we'll do it that way then. Okay. I don't know what kind of fonts we can use. Let's use brew search. All right. I don't think I've actually done this, but let me do it now. It's probably not the font I actually want to use, but this will be a good way to make sure I actually have a font for us to use. I take that back. Font. Let's do Roboto. Slab. Regular. There we go. Let's see if this works. All right. So there's that, and then we can do die box. Title. All right, so that gives us a width of 519. I'm going to up the font size just so we can make sure it rolls over. So let's do 24 point. So what this is saying is if I use this font right now as is and try to draw the title on the image, it's going to be 1,529 pixels wide. So I'm going to actually see if I can do that now. So image, draw, text, and we're going to do title, font. What else does it need? Oh, it needs a point, and we'll do oh, I don't even know what that. No, I did that. All right, so new image points. So we're going to do X. We'll do, let's say, 16 by 256. Expected abstract font got font interface. Really? Let's see what it did. Okay, cool. So I put it where it needed to, but it doesn't necessarily show up right. Let's go ahead and actually change this back to white. So I think that's actually what we're going to want to do. Rebuild it. There we go. Let's do a little lower on the screen. 384. Let's do that. Okay. Let's actually not do that. We'll do 384. The other thing that we're going to want to do is to do a sort of a background. So if we look at what we do here, GDPR, we actually have a little bit of a shadow underneath, and I don't know if we're going to be able to do like a blur, but what we can do is fake it. So font back, we'll do 0, and we'll do the same thing here, and we'll offset it. Let's see how that looks. Okay, so we need to do it the other way around. Here we go. Here we go. Okay, cool. That's starting to come together more or less like what I was hoping. All right, so now we need to figure out a way to make sure that this isn't going to be too large. So what I'd like to do is maybe use their primitives as they are. So we'll say max, well, actually, no, we're not. So we'll do max width equals, what is it, image get size, no, just do 512 minus 64, minus 32. So what I need to do is iterate over different values until this actually gets too large. So let's do, we're gonna have to keep track of lines because there's gonna be multiple lines potentially of text. And let's see, I think PHP actually has a built-in for each, what is it, word, splits. I don't remember what it is. PHP word wrap. Well, this is using number of characters, so I don't know if that's actually what I want. I feel like there was something else. All right, let's split these into tokens. So we'll do words equals explode, and we'll do title. Current line words. So what I'm going to do in here is I'm going to have to say $new dimensions font get size, and then we're going to pass in the current line length. So is that the right thing? No. box. And we're going to do current line, space, new word. Then if new dimensions get width is greater than max width, line equals next word. So this is going to be the case where we'll switch to switch the current line into the lines array. So lines, current line. So what the value that we already had at this point, the previous value is as long as that string can possibly be. If we include the next word on it, then it's going to be too big to fit the box. So we'll shove that line into our lines array, and then start the current line with the next word. Else line equals, well, dot equals next word. So this should continue to build it. While next word equals shift words. I think this works. And then whatever we do at the end, lines on our current line. Okay, so there was an extra space in there. Why would there be an extra space in there? Title. Okay. So if we already have a value for current line, we'll do current line otherwise just do next word. See if that behaves better. Okay, cool. So let's go ahead now and drop our font size a bit. So let's drop this to 18. All right, so now it brings us back to 3 lines. So this should also give us the height. I think let's do we're almost out of time. Get size. See if that might just be a point sort of thing. Let's do there we go. I think that'll work. So we can do font height. Cool. So it's 32 pixels. All right, so let's see if we can finish this out at least a little bit. Let's do, we know the height is 512, so we are setting things off at 16 pixels on the X. That's sort of like a 16 pixel margin. If we want a 16 pixel bottom margin, we'd want to bottom text equals 512 minus 16. So this gives us our margin. And then we want to start at minus font height times count of lines. So this is going to tell us where the font should actually start. So when we draw the text, the X will be what we say it is, and then we'll say the bottom text will be where it starts. I'm going to actually switch that back to 35. Okay. So we'll go for each lines as line. And we'll do bottom text plus equals font height. So we will start the bottom text as where we're doing things. So we'll do y is bottom text, and then bottom text minus 1. Oh, wait, no. Bottom text plus 1. Forgot this was the black. So this is the drop shadow. And then this value should be bottom text. So the first time through, it should put the very first line right at this value. And then the second line, it's going to be another font height lower. And then the third line should be another lower. But practice in theory and all that, let's see what we came up with. Awesome. Okay, so we did get 3 lines, but we're doing the full title, so let's do line now instead of title. I think we're going to be pretty happy with what we come up with. Nice. All right, cool. And then in theory, we should be able to switch this to 24 point or smaller, and it should just work. So what I'd like to do is probably break this code out into something a little more reusable so that we can place more text on here. Because I'd probably want to place the text, maybe the date, that sort of thing. I want to have several different versions of this image. Oh, so here we go with 24, and it came up just fine. It looks like maybe we might want a little more drop shadow, or the background image here. So we went to 75%. Let's maybe try 80 and see what that looks like. Yeah, it's not good. It's more a problem of being up here than down here. I guess the only other thing we could do is potentially change the height here to be more than 128 pixels, but I don't think I'm ultimately going to want to have it quite that big. I think I'm going to want the actual font size to be smaller, so it's probably not going to be a huge deal. If we go to 16 point, let's see what that looks like. So that might be closer to the right ratio that we're looking for. Yeah, I think that's probably okay. Let's see if there's kind of the cherry on the top. Let's see if there's a blur. Image effects, blur 3. Okay, so only GD's image filters applied. All right. So let's go ahead and do that on the back image. So we have draw text. Effect? No. here? I think I'd probably have to create a background image specifically for this. Let's do foreground image. Imagine create size background text image. Actually, those are backwards. And then we want to paste those on top. Where's the pastes happening? There we go. Before I do that, let's run this again. We should lose the, no, where's that, line 91. We're probably going to lose the text entirely, which is expected. Okay, and then let's first paste the background image. We'll run that. So let's do, when we create that image, we need to create a foreground text image palette, color alpha 0. So we just need to make sure that the base canvas that we're working on here is transparent. I think that will work. There we go. Okay, so this is just the background, the black image. What I'm going to do now is try to do an image, or let's blur that background. So background text image, blur, effect, blur. Let's do 3. Haha, nice. All right, so I don't actually want it to be that blurred. Likewise, I don't know if I want the font to be exactly black. Let's do black with a 80% transparent. So this gives us a little bit of wiggle room. So that's going to give us more of an outline around the white, which I think is going to help us quite a bit. And then we need to paste the foreground image. Foreground text image, run. There we go. Cool. So there might be some like alpha channel type stuff that we, or not alpha, but like anti-aliasing rather type stuff that we might want to do. I'm going to change this now and go back up to 24 point and see if that little bit of change is going to have a big impact on the case where the text is bigger. I think it might help a little bit. Let's go ahead and do 90 and maybe we'll do blur of 2. See what kind of impact that has on it. Yeah, I think I like that better. Cool. Awesome. All right, well, I think I'm going to call this episode done for now. We accomplished the things that I set out to do, mostly in that we got the text going, we got this background gradient working, so I'm pretty happy with how those things worked out, actually. There's a bunch of cleanup that I'm going to have to do in order to actually get this usable, and I don't think I'm going to probably record that. Because I'd really like to just get this code out so that we can actually start testing this in production. So I might just have to bury my head for an hour or so and just crank that out. So this is actually a holiday week in the States, so I'm probably not going to be streaming the rest of the week, but I should be back again next week. And I'm thinking sometime in the next couple of days, over the next couple of days, I'm going to start thinking about the next projects that we'll be working on. I think that for the main Astrocasts projects that we've been doing so far, we've done rewriting that podcast and bootstrapping Astrocasts. The analytics, or not the analytics, but the statistics aren't on here. But between these two sessions, I'm at about 30 hours for both of them. And that's a little longer than I thought the projects would actually last. And really, I could just keep working on both of these. So what I think I'm going to do instead is I'm going to close these projects and then start up some new ones that aren't necessarily related to either of these. But I may occasionally create brand new little projects where I could talk about adding something specific to that podcast. But for the most part, this site is ready to go, with the exception of maybe a couple of meta tags. Everything on here is ready to go. All I need to do is make sure and kind of finalize the things like the background image stuff that we're doing here. And then it's ready. So we'll be able to put that public. Thanks again. I had some weird issues with my setup today, so I just realized that if anybody tried to chat with me, it's not there, or rather, I didn't see it. So thanks for joining. Apologize if I seem to be ignoring you on chat. Have a great day.